Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome to Respawn Station. My name is Sri Kandula, and today I'm joined by my co-host in crime, Nick Sivak. And today
Hello.
we're going to talk about what was once the best deal in video games. But before that, Nick, man, I don't even know. Actually, I didn't even look at the sheet here today. What are you playing, man? What have you been playing recently?
So I've continued on with Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, Sri, and that pesky little Call of Duty bug has come around
How
again.
is that possible?
So
You got bit twice in a year? That's fucking crazy.
yeah, I know it's comes to as a shock to me, but this time it seems even more potent. And
Wow.
yeah, I don't know what's going on, but what do you want to hear about first? Do you want to hear about Call of Duty, or do you want to hear about week 2 of the Shadow of the Erd Tree
Hit me with
diary?
your diary of Erdtree first, and then we'll transition into the first person shooter stuff.
Alrighty. So, Erdtree, yes. I'm struggling to remember where exactly I was at when we recorded last week, but I've put a good amount of time into Erdtree now. Probably like 15 to 20 hours, I would think. And I'm still really enjoying it overall. The I will say, as I've come to expect with some From Software DLCs, there are some enemies that are just like really frustrating to deal with.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, sure.
which again, like, it kind of comes with the territory. It's to be expected. But like, there's this one enemy in particular that has these two ring blades that attack you, right? And basically, it's like, all right, so I'm gonna have a 15 hit combo. So if you try to shield me, like, I'm just gonna break your shield because you can't block that long. Also, if you take damage, good luck healing because I'm just gonna interrupt your healing. If you try attacking me, I'm not gonna stagger, so good luck getting your hits in. And oh yeah, that shield that I mentioned before, I'm actually just gonna hit you over top of it, so you can't do anything
Damn,
anyway.
damn.
And so it's
That
like,
that
for
sucks.
for me, somebody that has like, sword and shield primarily, like, anytime I'm coming across these enemies now, I'm just kind of like, forget it. Like, I'm just gonna run past you. Like, it's not worth it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um, so yeah, it has its frustrating, elements to
Would you
it.
say that it's? I mean, obviously, I think the big discourse around Elden Ring, and I think you're probably a little too early in to really give a definitive answer, but the discourse around Elden Ring has really been like, oh man, the game's too hard. I mean, or the DLC should say. The game obviously praised, lauded, one of the greatest games of our generation, but the
Mhm.
DLC has had a bit more negative press than I was expecting. I think mainly from that difficulty spike. Do you
Yeah,
find it? Because not to hijack this conversation, but I think there's always a balance in these kind of Souls-like games where it's like, the difficulty is part of, like, when you get past it, there's a satisfaction to getting it. Is
mhm.
that balance there for you right now? Where do you feel like it's worth the work you're putting in is worth getting what you're getting, the satisfaction?
So I could kind of come at it from two fronts. One, having put like about like 20 hours into the DLC, it's not anything that I wasn't already expecting, right?
Sure.
Like, it's not like, this dramatic like difficulty spike where like it feels like a completely different game, right? Like, it
Yeah.
still feels like Elden Ring. It still feels like,
It
my
looks like Elden
build
Ring.
for yeah, for lack of a better term, my build, like, I it can still work on most enemies. It's just like, certain ones like I just mentioned where it's like, if I had like a god magic beam attack or something, or a bow and arrow, like, yeah, it would probably be a little bit easier. But for me personally, like, it's not a significantly crazy jump. There are certain bosses that are more challenging than ones that I, remember fighting in the base game and
Sure.
everything.
Sure.
But still, it's not crazy. I think where a lot of people get the difficulty in, or like where the difficulty conversation is stemming from, is it's it's kind of weird because it's like, for me, the thing that I think is the most hardest part about the DLC is that is like the scaling, which I guess is maybe what you're getting at. Like maybe the scaling just like is a little bit too extreme for a lot of
Mm,
people because there's a lot of boss attacks or like certain enemies kind of like what I was describing where it's like if you're not prepared, like there's 2/3 of your health bar in one hit. Like
right.
you know, you're getting hit like hard if you're not prepared and everything. But on the same hand as that, that is just kind of like Souls likes in general. Like if you start the game up and like you go to a place like, the Tree Sentinel is famous at the beginning of Elden Ring. It's like right at the start and it's a boss fight. And it's like if you're not prepared and you try to bash your head against the Tree Sentinel, like yeah, you're gonna get,
Shit
you're
on.
gonna get rocked, basically. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so like it's obviously it's a conversation that persists with From Software, and I don't really know the best way to tackle it. So many people have tried tackling it from many different directions. For me personally, it's like to put a nail in it, it's like there are parts that are frustrating and there are parts that I think are completely fine or completely easy. So it's like it all
Mm,
just kind of depends on I guess how you kind of traverse the open world and where you kind of think like the game is trying to lead you versus
right.
where you want to go and where like if that clashes basically.
Sure. Huh.
But but yeah, overall, I mean, the exploration is still great. That's the biggest thing for me is that, prior to the DLC coming out, I believe there was a quote floating around from Miyazaki where he said that the DLC was about as big as Limgrave, which is like the opening area of the game. But like that was a complete like oversimplification because there's the land mass is a lot bigger than
The
that area.
verticality, though.
And yeah, B is that like, they didn't say that, like pretty much the entire landmass has multiple layers underneath of it of
Yeah.
different regions and temples and dungeons and all this stuff to explore. So,
It kind of
you, you
reminds
know,
me of like Tears of the Kingdom, how there's like, oh, it's the same kind of
mhm,
landmass, but like, oh, now you got like a sky region and then like a fucking dungeon region underneath, like a underground region. So, yeah, you think it's the
yeah.
same, but it's not. It's not. It's deceptive. But
Yeah,
I
the
suppose in a good
exploration
way.
has been the exploration's been the best part for me. The boss fights, obviously, like they're very cool spectacle, but every once in a while you hit one of those ones where it's just like, man, I'm just dying
Damn
when I'm
it.
just trying to figure out how to dodge like
Yeah.
your one
Yeah.
attack. So, it's a push and pull. So overall, I'm still having a lot of fun with it, but there are some areas where, it's just
That's
like,
fair.
okay, this is
I get
annoying.
it. I get it. FarmSoft.
Mhm.
Speaking of, I get it. I get it. Activision. We're making a new Call of Duties like they're fucking babies. I mean, I guess babies depends on your output. That was a terrible transition. Let's talk about Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. So, Nick,
Yeah.
you've been playing Black Ops 4, and you just you couldn't that wasn't enough for you. You just wanted to go for
Yeah,
Cold War.
I was pretty much done with the like weird like almost hacked lobbies that I was getting into
Yeah.
and like the weird hero shooter exosuit kind of stuff. Like I kind of got my fill of that. That's not really the Call of Duty that I'm nostalgic for, as
Yeah.
we talked about before, right? But the newer Call of Duties feel like they have their issues, but they feel like they capture the era that you and I
Yes.
particularly were very fond of. I think better than sort of those
That
middle
middle
eras,
ground.
like
Yeah.
World War II, Infinite Warfare, and all that.
Advanced Warfare. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, like basically, I've had Cold War installed because a buddy of mine and myself were going to try the zombies in it because I was also getting into a weird rabbit hole of watching zombies videos on YouTube again, and I was just like, it has been a while since I've played zombies.
Sure.
Um, but we still haven't gotten around to it. So one night I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna boot up the multiplayer. I played the campaign last year and didn't really do any multiplayer,
Yeah.
and it kind of like I said at the start, like that bug kind of bit me again because that's pretty much all I've been playing along with Elden Ring is some
Nice.
Black
Nice.
Ops multiplayer. It's like I get my fantasy RPG open world kind of game time in, and then I get my competitive 10-minute rounds, shoot everything that moves
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of gaming in.
Yeah. No. I
But
mean,
yeah,
how do you find it? I mean, is it still? I mean, it's the most
it's
recent Black Ops game. Obviously not Black Ops 6. So we're
mhm.
Is it still like active? The server's still full.
Yeah, it's still very active. Like
Cool.
it doesn't take long at all to get into games or anything like that. It's interesting because I played a lot of Modern Warfare 2019 and a lot of Modern Warfare 2,
Yeah.
2022, whenever that came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Black Ops Cold War, obviously it's on the same engine as those games, but it doesn't have like the lean on like
The
cover kind of
tactical shit.
mechanics.
Yeah.
It doesn't have like the double sprint, I don't think, and it doesn't have, a couple of those other things
I
that
do
are in
think
those
that like
Modern
Treyarch
Warfares.
kind of does their own thing in that. Like I think like Treyarch has like a certain kind of tool set that they like to work with. Because I mean, even now we see that in Black Ops 6 they have omnidirectional movement, but like that's just dolphin diving in different directions. Like that, like what I mean, that's just like that's been established. So I think it is interesting that they. I wouldn't ever say that like Modern Warfare is a like tactical shooter. It's not like Arma or anything, but it is of the two the more tactical, grounded. Whereas I think Black Ops is like you get the realistic gun action, but then like let's fucking try to see if you can make you a superhero, like Max Payne style.
Yeah, it definitely feels a bit more arcadey than the Modern Warfare ones, which again, like I was going into it thinking like this is just gonna be like those games, but with
Right.
the Black Ops stuff in it, right? But it definitely does feel a bit different. The maps are always a big thing with Call of Duty and me, and I find it funny how we get some of these like fan favorite maps, and then it's like they have to be in every game, right? So like Black Ops, like I've played on Nuketown, I've played on Jungle, I've played on like a bunch of maps from Black Ops 1, and it's like, yeah, I remember playing these maps, back in the day, and it's funny that they just kind of remaster the same ones and put them into every game. Modern Warfare had shipment and everything, so I just find that a little funny. I think some of the original maps in Cold War are not really my favorite. Like there's like I struggle to really think of many. The one that takes place on like a ship out in the ocean is pretty cool.
Oh yes, I know that. Yeah.
I like playing on that one, but then there's some that are like on like a winter base or like in like a sandy environment with like a giant satellite dish, and it's like those ones like they just kind of seem like overly packed, but not really. They don't really flow right to me.
Yeah.
So the maps are kind of hit or miss for me. But yeah, the gameplay, the gunplay itself is
Top notch.
really satisfying. Like I don't know what it is.
Miami map I also remembered enjoying.
I'm trying to think. I think I've played on this one. I honestly don't remember if I played on Miami.
It's just a lot of neon lights. That's what I remember. But yeah, no. From what I remember playing Black Ops Cold War multiplayer, I haven't played much else since obviously it came out. But yeah, the Cold War multiplayer is. I mean, it's Black Ops, and I always feel more at home at Black Ops than I do at Infinity Ward or Sledgehammer. But that being said, I mean they're all kind of at the core they're the same engine. So I think if you have an understanding of one, you kind of can get away with anything in all the games type of thing. So yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying Cold War. How long have you been playing it? Is it just like a few days, or is it like since last week even?
Pretty much since last week. So it's I just hit like level 38 in the multiplayer, which I'm not sure what their max is in these new games, because it feels like they always change and shift that.
Well, I think in Black Ops 6 they're going back to the basics, dude. They're going like I think it's like what is it 55, and then you prestige, and then you go through the regular prestige. So yeah, well, I hope you enjoy Cold War, Nick.
And here I have a good transition tree here. So there is one other Call of Duty that I have installed that I haven't got to yet, because specifically I was talking about that zombies bug that might also be biting me, and that's Black Ops 3. And I know one other game that you have on this list that is similar to zombies would be Warhammer 40K Dark Tide.
That is true. That is true. So, yes, last week after the episode ended, while Nick and I were kind of unpacking the episode, I teased to him that I was like, hey, dude, there's a chance that I'll be getting into Warhammer. And look, I had, Nick and I both have had very kind of light tastes of the Warhammer 40K universe. We both played Bolt Gun. Nick, on top of that, had played the Necromunda.
Yeah, Necromunda.
Yeah. Okay. So Bolt Gun, if you've played it, you'll know that it doesn't really give you much of a story. It gives you like an atmosphere and like I think the really kind of the scene stealer in Bolt Gun is the architecture. Just is like you really get an idea of like that gothic futuristic architecture of Warhammer 40K. But with that said, last week was July 4th week, so we had some holidays. I had some time off. I could kind of do things that I've been wanting to do for a while. So the big thing, I as Nick had said, I've played Darktide. But the day of the Darktide, the morning of playing Darktide, I decided to paint my very first Warhammer miniature. And for the audio listeners, I'm holding up a Warhammer miniature. You'll just have to imagine that it's a cool one. And I liked it so much, I made another one. So I actually have a pack of like, it's an introductory set that Games Workshop sells. It's about $55, was on sale, but it gives you 5 Infernus Marines, which again, you have to literally put together, snap with like this tool that they give you, and then like paint it by hand. But they give you all the paints, they give you all the things you need to actually play it as well. Yes, Ross, I am in Warhammer 401k now. By the way, hello to everybody watching live. Loading retro Ross, hello. So, and by the way, shout out to some of you guys who've actually watched us play Darktide 2. But having painted those little tiny miniatures, which my first miniature took about like an hour and a half to paint, and it is like I don't think I quite understood or I was quite prepared for how small they are. Like I knew they're obviously called miniatures, but like I was painting this thing and I was like, there's not a paintbrush that is small enough for me to get like the lines of this thing. But that being said, really cool introduction to the world, and then we went into Warhammer 40K Darktide by Fat Shark. Shout out, awesome name. But I really didn't know what to expect with Darktide. Nick, have you ever even like glanced at Darktide? I mean, I don't want to overassume.
I've seen trailers and like a few like minutes of gameplay. Okay. Just like a very tiny amount.
So I think for me, the surface level description of Darktide going into it was like it's Left 4 Dead in the Warhammer universe, and that was literally all I was expecting. And so it was me, Austin, and Alexa. We were gonna play through a co-op, but the first thing, the opening minutes, we were immediately surprised because there is a pretty in-depth character creator, and I'm not just talking about like customize the way your cheekbones look. I'm talking about like character background. I mean, if you played Cyberpunk 2077, you have to pick 3 different starting points for your character. This game has, you can pick what planet your character's from, and then that impacts what kind of a childhood you can pick from, and then like what profession you have, and all that leads up to like all that builds to how you start this game, like what your character's kind of background is going into the start of this game and the events that kind of lead up to it. And yeah, it took us about 30 minutes to get through the character creation of just like, okay, do I want this? And then this planet impacts this. And then, I was really into character. So all my kind of everything was built out with like the specific character in mind. And so that was really cool. I mean, first of all, I just wasn't expecting it. So that was really cool. But getting into gameplay, it is very much so Left 4 Dead in the Warhammer 40K universe. But there's a few things. And again, I'm only about 4 or 5 hours in. And so these are first impressions, if anything. So the first thing that kind of really to mention is that you go into a hub that is kind of where everything else happens. So in the hub, you can access your armory to buy weapons and sell weapons. You can pick up challenge rewards, or you can go to the main terminal to get missions and party up and then go do those missions. There is no, as far as I understand, there's no story order to this game. You essentially, there's actually, so when you go to the terminal to pick the mission, you see the missions that you can pick from, but then there's also a quick play mode, which the quick play mode has like 10 to 20%, I think, extra XP. So like it incentivizes you using the quick play mode. And then once you get into a game, it really is like it'll pick a random mission that you can play. It sets you into this world, and you have a task. You and your group have a task that you have to complete. And it's really, you're just mowing down hordes of enemies depending on what kind of build you have. There's a tank character. I'm playing a veteran who's kind of a more soldier-ish character, like a typical first-person shooter type of deal. There's a psyker, which I believe is more of the magic kind of thing. So you have this 4 different classes that you can play as, and going through it, everything that I said about Bolt Gun in terms of like that atmosphere, this game I think gets tenfold. I mean, because there are so many times as I'm playing through Darktide that I'll just everyone be like, all right, let's go to the next mission, and I'll just stop and be like, holy shit, do you see what's up there, dude? Like that's not even the sky up there. Like it's so cool, and the attention to detail here in terms of just building out the world, the parts that you don't see. You know what I mean? Like it's you're walking through on like ledges and looking down at like just what seems like endless, a cityscape below you, and then there's other missions where you're on top and you'll look up and there's just like there's so much more building above you, so it really adds like that scale of this planet, which I'm forgetting the name of. It's like something Prime, something Prime. I'm not sure, but regardless of that, it still isn't huge in the story department. I think that the fact that you can play the missions in any order kind of I think establishes that kind of pacing, but there's cutscenes that sort push the narrative and develop some stuff, but it's not crazy so far. Again, 4 or 5 hours in, so maybe it kind of picks up. Optimus Prime. That's it. That's the name of the planet. That's where Darktide takes place. It plays really nicely. I luckily have not had too many problems, though. Austin and Alexa have both experienced crashes, and there's also like performance issues in terms of like certain areas are just kind of hiccup in, and like Austin's character, who is like the tank character, as I was saying, has initially like the character has a throwable item, which is a box of grenades. But it is literally just a box. Like there's no grenades in there. It's just you throw the box. But then once you like go through the skill tree and upgrade it, he eventually unlocked a thing where once he throws it, it actually opens up and the grenades come out too. But every time he uses this goddamn ability, it lags everyone's game. Like the grenades just totally like he to the point where I'm like, all right, Austin, prepare me next time you're gonna use this shit. So that stuff is a little unfortunate, and I've heard from the people who kind of come in and out of chat that it's just like Darktide has had those problems. But also in chat, we've had people that are like have played the game for 800 hours, so there's clearly a lot of content in this game, and I'm already curious like how maybe approaching it with a different build or a different kind of backstory would impact the gameplay, or just that like what happens. So maybe I'll give it another go after I finish, but I'm not really sure what the end is. So I'll report back once I kind of make more progress in that regard. But Nick, there's one game that I want to talk about that I actually didn't include on there. If you've been watching the podcast a lot, first of all, thank you. You'll know that I've been a big fan of X Defiant. I've talked about it multiple times on the show during the preseason. And last week, the game officially kicked off Season 1, which includes with it, obviously, like a bunch of regular balancing updates, but also 3 new maps, which will be released 1 per month. The first one that just released is called Clubhouse. And then there's also 3 new weapons, which you can unlock through the Battle Pass for free. Like you just have to play, like level up through the Battle Pass, and then the free tiers, you'll unlock them. There's a new assault rifle, a new sniper rifle, and I forget what the third one is, but I've so far unlocked the assault rifle, and it is very good. It's very high powered, and it's just fun to use. It takes some time to like actually get there though, because like it is one of those weapons where you have to get on attachments to really kind of like put an extended mag on it and like a reflex sight to really kind of get it to be super functional in combat. But all that stuff I really did. I really did enjoy, and to talk about that new map briefly, it's awesome. Like it was like it took me by surprise. I jumped in. And I was like, wow, this is almost feels like a Call of Duty map, and yeah, I was super into it. And they added a new game mode, which is called Capture the Flag. I unfortunately haven't played it yet. I've been still riding that TDM train, so I'll share my thoughts on Capture the Flag whenever I get to it. But with all that said, I have been a little disappointed by Season 1 of X Defiant, and so I wanted to talk about that here today. But I guess to preface it, I do want to say I understand that this is not like what they're doing here is not necessarily easy. And to explain that, so Call of Duty is built on a first-person shooter engine. That's that's common knowledge. I believe is it the Quake engine? Is that what it is? Something it's based on some old kind of first-person shooter engine.
I think it's a modified Quake engine, if I remember right.
So X Defiant is built on the Snowdrop engine, which I might be used for other games, but the one I remember is the Division 2 is what it was originally made for, or at least is used for. And so it's essentially like an MMO engine that they're kind of finagling into a first-person shooter. So I understand that there's quirks and stuff like that kind of come up from this process. But boy, has the last week been the worst week with this game. So first of all, I've talked about this before, and so some things I'm going to reiterate, so bear with me. There's one of the abilities that the faction DedSec have is called Spiderbot. Now, Spiderbot essentially is a little thing you drop on the ground. It crawls around to the nearest enemy player, and then it jumps on their face and incapacitates them for a period of time. And ideally, like you'd follow the bot and kill it, or it's like a distraction, etc. There's multiple functions for it. Now, in the preseason, I randomly discovered the fact that if it jumps on your face, if you look down at your feet and then shoot, you can shoot the bot off, which was cool. And it was like, okay, if your reflexes are fast enough, you can really kind of get away with it. It doesn't really impact you. And obviously, if you're really fast, you can even shoot it while it's on the ground because you can, hear it kind of skittering around if you have headphones on. So you can shoot it before it even gets there. But that was how the workaround was simple. You look down, shoot. Now, that was actually a bug. That was not intended to do that. The Spiderbot originally had no counter. They didn't. I guess they just thought, oh yeah, this is perfectly balanced. This won't be a problem at all. But they realized that people really like this idea of shooting this thing off their faces because it's really annoying. Also, to be fair, if a teammate sees you struggling with a Spiderbot on your face, they can also shoot it off of you as well. But let's be honest, unless
that sounds safe.
Yeah, it's not going to happen all the time. So that's the reason why they're like, okay, let's keep this in for now, and we'll get to we'll find a proper fix for it later. Well, unfortunately, they sent the patch to get rid of that Spiderbot bug in the Season 1 update. So Spiderbot for the last week has been nigh undefeatable. I mean, unless you're lucky enough to have a teammate that shoots it off you, you're shit out of luck. If that thing's coming for you, it's getting you. I mean, it's screwed.
Oh, jeez.
And so it's been so infuriating because you can see the people, like the meta has been changing of people being like, oh, the Spiderbot. Now, that being said, there is a way to counter the Spiderbot, which isn't just shooting it up before it comes down. But here's the kicker, Nick. The faction you have to play as to counter Spiderbot is DedSec. You have to use their second ability, which is Hijack, which essentially lets you hack the Spiderbot and then send it back to the people that put it down. So it is fun. It's like it is fun and satisfying when that happens, but it really sucks that I don't really like playing DedSec. And to have to force myself to do it just so I can get rid of the Spiderbot issue.
The most pervasive thing running through the multiplayer right now. Yeah.
And as Retro's saying, Snowdrop is mainly an open world engine, so surprised they went with that. But that means Ubisoft's proprietary engine, I guess. I don't know. You were saying?
So with the correct me if this is wrong, but you as an individual player select your faction that you play as,
Yes.
right? You're not like locked as a team to a faction.
No. Yep. Every player picks their
Okay.
own. So every player picks their own faction, and then each faction has 2 abilities, and 1 ultra. And the ultra is the same, like, it's like the you all kind of work up to it, but the 2 abilities are like variations of that character. So, like, for example, the cleaners, who are from the division, they have a firebomb, which is essentially a Molotov that they throw at their feet, or a fire drone, which is a little like drone that they send out, for like 10 feet in front of them, and it explodes. So, and like I said, the DedSec one is Spiderbot, and then Hijack, which kind of is a hacking thing. Now, apart from those, the issue with the Spiderbot, there's other things plaguing this game in Season 1. The first thing was weird frame drop issues, which I believe they've actually sent a patch through yesterday to fix. I haven't played it since then, so I can't really report on it yet. But and in chat, Ross says incinerator drone needs nerf. So there you go. So there's been frame drops. I'm playing on the PlayStation 5, for those of you who want to know, and the Xbox Series X, but mainly on the PS5. And yeah, I don't understand how the game ran perfectly smoothly in preseason, and then in Season 1 somehow there's an update that kind of messes with the frame rate, where it'll be fine for the most part, but then you'll just come across like scenarios, and it's not even like Darktide where, like, someone's dropping a grenade bomb, a box of grenades or whatever. It's just randomly drops frames, and so that's weird.
Weird.
It gets weirder, Nick. So those abilities that I was telling you about, some of them, for some reason, will randomly lock. So, for example, the one that I've come across this with the most often is the, I believe the Echelon. I always get the Echelon and Phantoms mixed up. I believe the Echelon have this radar ping, which lets them kind of, for about like establishes like a little circle around them, and then it sends out a pulse that highlights enemies within that circle for like a few seconds, like 30 seconds or something like that. And there is an arbitrary number of times. I don't know what that number is. For me, it's usually like 3 or 4, but Alexa had it 8 times before. Sometimes you literally can't use it at all. But what'll happen is you'll use the ability, and there's like a 30-second timer, like to refresh it, and then you can use it again. And it just doesn't do that. Like, it'll just be grayed out, and you just can't use the ability. The only you can fix it by picking a different faction, and then you like going back, but that doesn't always work either, or that one ends up being fucked too. So I all these things combined, I don't really understand how the hell Season 1 has done this. Retro says Season 1 broke a bunch of stuff on PC as well. Yeah, very, very confused. That being said, I still bought the Season 1 Battle Pass. I'm still playing it. I'm level 98, I think, in the game. Yeah, and I have I'm almost to my first titanium gun. I think it's what's called. Essentially, like in Season 1, or sorry, in the preseason, the mastery levels for a gun got you to bronze, silver, and then gold. Now, in Season 1, they added 3 new tiers, so you can keep leveling up those guns. So it's like titanium, something else, and then something else. I forget the 3 of them. But, yeah, I'm on my way to the first kind of one of that. I don't even know if titanium is the right one there. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, chat. But I am still playing the game. It's a little frustrating to be so hot on a game and then see it kind of fumble, arguably at its most important time. I totally get that, again, like I said, it's July 4th week, so there's probably holidays going on. But also, it's July 4th week, and I understand that United States is not the only market, but it is probably one of the biggest markets for a game like this. And so to lose out, because I would not recommend you join the game right now until they fix some of the stuff that's going on. And it sucks because this is the time, the long weekends, with the perfect time to recommend people and get on the game. And when they're supposed to be making these good first impressions, they're kind of not. So it's a little sad, but all the new stuff at the very least, the new map, the new guns, they're all, the guns I haven't even unlocked, I've also heard are good. So all that is nice. It's just I really hope that they get on their get on the high horse. I don't know, is that the word? And fix some of these bugs and kind of smooth out the wrinkles of this game. Because again, I really do think this game has really good legs. It just needs the TLC to see it through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me of 76 back during its launch period where like they would patch things in one patch and then introduce a new patch that just reverts all the bugs that they just fixed. So it's like, yeah,
also,
it's crazy.
The last game I played was not yesterday or 2 days ago. I did like it was I ended on that game because I was like, okay, that was like the best that I'll do. I went 30-8, but the last 20 kills were in one life. Like I just didn't die for the last half of the game, and it felt like, I mean, also I don't know why this always happens to me. I don't know. I know you play first-person shooters too, obviously with your Call of Duty bugs. So you might experience this too. But like, I'm not a good sniper. Like I can't just. I don't know, like I can't make a sniper class and like lock it in and make snipe. Mm-hmm. But I have clips of this and I'll put it up on some like Twitter or YouTube or something and I'll share it. But I just pick up this random sniper rifle off the ground in this gameplay and I pop off, Nick. I have played this like I was made for sniping for some reason. I don't understand. And I don't even know what class that setup was, so I can't replicate it. But anyway, I digress. Still having fun with it. I just hope they fix all that stuff. Sounds like every Division 2 update ever. I've heard that about Division 2. But yeah, with that said, is there anything else I've been playing? Oh, briefly, there's nothing crazy. I started playing Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Again,
Ooh.
I played it the original on the PlayStation 3, but now I'm playing it on the remastered version of the PS4, and I'm about a quarter of the way through. It's a short game, but man, Naughty Dog knows what they're doing, man. I mean, even I understand like the remasters improve stuff, but like at its core, the cinematography, the writing is just so top notch that like. I mean, I'm playing with someone who hasn't played it before, so for me, I'm kind of re-experiencing it, and for them, it's the first time, and like just we're both chuckling at the same time as like because it's like it's just that well written, and all the story beats are hitting as intended. I mean, it's a good game. I'm looking forward to playing through all of those games again because yeah, they're good. But with that said,
I remember playing Uncharted back in a couple years ago, and I remember thinking it was like, in my memories, I think it was like really good. And then for whatever reason, I remember the final boss being really bad for some reason. So you'll have to remind me if that memory is misplaced.
Yeah,
or
I
not
can't even
remember.
I
vaguely remember like you just have to like run to a certain place or something. Like it's like almost not even a boss fight or something. But...
See, the reason why I'm playing Uncharted again is because I want to play Uncharted 2. That's the one I haven't played. I know people say it's the best.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. And so, and I played the crap out of the demo. My local GameStop had a PS3 with a demo of Uncharted 2. And it's a iconic sequence of running down the alleyway with the truck behind you shooting. I played that shit so much, but I have not played the actual game. So, hoping to get to that, and then also to think that they would go from Uncharted Drake's Fortune, which again doesn't look awful, but you can certainly tell it's aged. But to know that like Uncharted 4 is at the end of that journey, and I think Uncharted 4 holds up to this day in terms of like almost everything. And so
almost a decade old now.
Dude,
still holds up.
I know. I was just sitting there last night and I was like, holy shit. Because like we're like, oh, Uncharted 4, it's a modern game. And I was like, no, it's 10 years. So yeah. Definitely. Yep. But with that said, Nick, let's get into what's on the news. I'm going to actually move the top item down so that we can kind of go through the conversation a little bit better. But Nick, walk us through some of this stuff, man. What's going on?
Sure. So, here, why don't we just shuffle some stuff around in general? This morning, Nintendo out here scaring people.
Yeah.
Basically.
I saw that.
They sent out this, posted this trailer, teaser kind of thing, for something called Emio, or at least they're referring to it as Emio.
Yeah, I believe translates to Smiling Man or something like that.
Smiling Man.
Yeah.
And you can go watch this teaser. It's basically just like a dude wearing a creepy looking smiling hat, or like mask thing, standing in an alleyway, and then it basically ends, and all the description says is, "Who is Emio?" It does have a M for Mature logo on the trailer, which I saw people posting about online that, obviously this is implying it's potentially a first-party, M for Mature Nintendo game, which they surprisingly don't do that often. I saw again, this is just like a random like Twitter post that I saw. So
for those of you who are wondering how to spell the name, it's EMIO.
Yeah, EMIO. The random Twitter thing I saw, it's like they've done like 8 M for Mature first-party games since like 2001 or something like that. Like it's a very small amount. So that alone is kind of interesting and exciting. Some people were pulling at some information that Bloober Team apparently has been developing a Nintendo Switch game for a little bit.
Okay.
So not a connection here, confirmed, but some people are thinking that maybe this could be, a Bloober Team game.
I would feel that Bloober Team would. I guess they could make it a totally. I mean, I would always assume that they would be working on like some sort of like a port for a Nintendo Switch. But yeah, no, that'd be interesting if. Man, the Bloober Team's really cementing themselves in this horror genre. I mean, with the medium, with working on obviously Layers of Fear was kind of their claim to fame. Was Bloober Team also Observer? I could be wrong, but then
yeah.
Okay, yeah, Observer really good. Horror, cyberpunk, that kind of thing. But Silent Hill 2 and now whatever this is. Yeah, if that is true.
Yeah, so I do want to, I guess, amend something that I just mentioned. I was saying first party game. I'm not sure that this is first party. I think it'll be Nintendo published.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because the teaser definitely, it doesn't feel like a Nintendo first party kind of game, right? Like even if it's an M for Mature game, like something like Bayonetta 3, like that's also, I don't know if you really consider that first party or not, because Nintendo doesn't own Platinum Games, but like even that like kind of visually looks more in line with like kind of Nintendo's kind of style, whereas this it almost seems like live action teasery, even though it's just a guy standing there. So yeah, definitely weird and definitely something to keep an eye on.
Wow. All right. Well, I mean, speaking of things to keep an eye on, Skybound Games, who is a division of Skybound Entertainment, who you probably recognize from The Walking Dead, Invincible, or Impact Winter, are now working on a little indie game from Osmotic Games called Closer the Distance. This is coming. It's a story-driven slice of life simulator that's coming to PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series XS in just under a month on August 2nd, 2024. And it's described as essentially a journey of yesterby, a small, cozy village coping with the sudden passing of one of its town people. Explore themes of loss, grief, and healing as you play as Angela, a young girl watching over her loved ones after a tragic accident by using her ethereal abilities to help the community navigate the grieving process. I thought this was, visually it looks really awesome. Just like, I like the art style and the tone, and also a cool kind of concept about not just like, obviously we've seen kind of games about loss and stuff like that, but like just this almost like a communal grief is something that I don't think games have really tackled. So looks cool. I'm really curious to see how it is. If you are interested, there's a free demo available right now on Steam. But again, you don't have to wait long. It's less than a month out for that game, and it looks really cool.
Right on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's see here. Another small one that I saw the other day, Arc System Works, which, people would know from their various fighting games.
Yeah.
They have announced a new 3D Double Dragon game that's coming out next year.
Shit.
So, Double Dragon, obviously, famous back in the day, 2D beat 'em up kind of series.
Yeah.
Sort of co-op, I believe. I've never actually personally played any of the Double Dragons, but
Me neither.
I know that there's a lot of them, so it was
Yep.
fairly popular for the time. And yeah, I saw there was I think it was a Famitsu article. Apparently had like some screenshots and stuff from this game already. So
Yeah, no, I didn't know.
you can look that up and see that out there. But yeah, 3D beat 'em up. Beat 'em ups in general are kind of having a renaissance right now. Like between TMNT and Power Rangers. It's a lot of the kind of retro franchises that are getting a lot of the beat 'em up stuff. And
Definitely.
yeah, 3D I think is always kind of a weird one for beat 'em ups. So definitely we'll have to. At least I'm personally taking a wait and see approach on that and see what kind of the game is kind of like. I feel like Sifu is probably the closest thing to like a modern 3D beat 'em up.
Sure.
But even that has
that's fair. That's
different elements to it.
Yeah, I think that'd be. I think there is definitely room to see where that could kind of how that could evolve, how that genre could evolve.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, all right. I mean, these retro fans are eating nice in the coming months. So
For sure.
can't complain. Now, this one caught me a little bit by surprise. Kind of sad a little bit. So last year, or no, is it 2 years ago at this point? I played a game called Elix 2, and I hadn't actually played the first Elix, but I was told I could jump into Elix 2, and so I did. It's this really ambitious open world RPG that introduced me to the term Eurojank. Now, I recommend you read my review over on respawnstation.com for this game because I think I kind of put that as well as I could word it. It is in there. Also, I apologize if you guys can hear this. My AC is like rattling. I don't understand how this thing is functioning right now, but I apologize if you can hear that in the background. But anyway, and it's not even doing anything. I'm still sweating over here, so I don't know what's going on. But anyway, so I played Elix 2, and the game is developed by Piranha Bytes, who, again, just like I learned about the term Eurojank, I think once you learn about the term Eurojank, you're right after that, you're going to hear the word Piranha Bytes because they are one of the most prolific game developers in that kind of field.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is still a reportedly, so it's not fully, established that it is how it is. Oh, by the way, actually, last year, the reason why I said last year I played Risen. They re-released Risen, a direct port, not even like a remaster or anything, just a straight port to PlayStation 4, which is where I played it. And man, I'll tell you what, it feels like a game that came out when it did, but there's certainly lots of, you can feel the kernels of like this kind of ambition there. And the Piranha Bytes is this really small team. I believe it's like 30 something people total. That kind of make these, again, really ambitious open world games.
Punching above their weight.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're clearly. I mean, obviously, like I said, they're small teams, but I think they're going for something more of like a Bethesda almost in terms of like their scope or scale, with their own kind of distinct style of gameplay. Because both Risen and Elix, while different, one's fantasy, one's sci-fi, they both have like at the core you can feel the gameplay is the same. But according to multiple reports, as of yesterday, July 9th, the studio, which, oh, man, I feel bad. They're owned by Embracer Group, which at this point, if you're owned by Embracer Group, you better embrace cold hands of death. I mean, that's all that fucking company's good for, apparently, because apparently Piranha Bytes is also closed down. This is this blows if this is true, because it is from. So they're actually currently working on a ground up remake of the Gothic, which is kind of what they're most known for. Like, I think their order of like the popularity of their games is Gothic, Risen, and then Elix. And I believe they're working on a ground up remake of Gothic, which I believe even like they've showed trailers for already, announcement trailers for briefly at certain events and stuff. So, boy, that sucks. I really hope it's not true. But it would. It's unfortunate. Now, that being said, the former head of Piranha Bytes, who I'm going to say his name, and I apologize, Bjorn Pankratz, he's confirmed that essentially, actually, let me confirm this. I believe he just started a new studio. Okay, yeah. So Piranha Bytes veterans, this is according to GameDeveloper.com, Piranha Bytes veterans Jennifer Pankratz and Bjorn Pankratz have left the Embracer Group-owned Risen Studio and established their own studio called Pithead Studio. So I don't know if that was like writing on the wall, but this was announced on July 8th that this article was published. So I don't know how that kind of turnaround happens, but yeah. Unfortunate that
Embracer doing what Embracer does still.
Grim Retro says Embracer is basically the Grim Reaper knocking on doors meme. It's pretty much. You just add each of the logos of the company they own, and yeah, you get there.
Except I think that meme has like 3 doors, and Embracer
their
like
lineage is much longer.
Doors. Like,
yeah. Okay, now it's time to get into the Xbox news, but like we always try to do, before we get into some of the more critical, harsh stuff, I think we're going to talk about probably the best news about Xbox coming out this week, which is that the new Microsoft Xbox TV app is now available on Amazon's Fire TV sticks, which means that you can now stream Xbox games from your Fire TV stick without an Xbox, just through the magic of the cloud, which is pretty awesome. I mean, generally, like, that is a really cool feature, and the fact that you can play games like Starfield just through the cloud on a Fire Stick is awesome. Now, I don't know if this is like if this kind of negates, because if you remember, Nick, I believe Phil Spencer was teasing like essentially like a Fire Stick, but Xbox, like an Xbox Fire Stick that was exclusively for playing video games through the cloud, Xbox games through the cloud. This kind of opens it up so that anyone can get into it, and for about $20, like I think a Fire TV stick is $20-$25. If you want 4K, maybe like $35-$40. So compared to at the very lowest, a $200 Xbox Series S, right? Is it $200 or $300? $299, so $300. Compared to $300 for an Xbox Series S, you're still spending or saving some good money, and for $100 total, you can get away with a good bit. I mean, I'm saying $100 because there's a good $40 for the Fire Stick, and then another $60 for an Xbox controller if you want it. But I think you can play with any Bluetooth controller at this point, so it doesn't really matter. But this is cool.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull up real quick because I saw, a couple weeks ago, I don't think we talked about it on the podcast, but that cloud streaming device, I think it was the Project Keystone,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Some reports came out recently that, officially stated that it was canceled. Wow. So I don't know if Microsoft themselves ever said that, but
sure, but I mean,
patent documents and stuff out there of
right.
that specific device.
I have to imagine that the logic was like, hey, do we manufacture these things? Do we design, manufacture everything ourselves, or do we just kind of make an app that can play on something that already has a huge user base kind of going for it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and also for those of you who don't know, you can also play Xbox games through the cloud on Samsung TVs, like smart TVs already. So that's already been there. I thought they dropped the idea of the cloud box. Yes, you are correct, Retro. You are correct. I was behind on that news. So that brings us to, let's just talk about Xbox here. So for the longest time, I've firmly been a proponent of Xbox Game Pass. I've gone on record and said it is the best game deal in video games. Well, the best deal in video games. The best game deal doesn't really make sense. The best deal in video games, because for a pretty affordable price per month or per 3 months, 6 months, whatever subscription scheme you want to go for, you are getting access to a large library of games. But I think the biggest incentive, the one that really kind of sold it for a lot of people, is that you can get first-party games on day one. And that's the almost like the mantra of Xbox over the last 3 years has been day one Game Pass. I mean, any game you see them announce, day one Game Pass. That's it. You're gonna if you have Game Pass, there's almost like a certain kind of confidence you have, or satisfaction. I don't know what the word is there, but I'll say satisfaction for now. That you have watching something like the Xbox Games Showcase from last month, and knowing that every single one of those Xbox first-party games you can play on day one with your Xbox Game Pass subscription. Now, that is not necessarily changing, but there have been some wrinkles added to this whole thing, and that's...
It's going to get more confusing.
And yes, they're about to do a Nintendo new 2DS XL on this bitch with a repricing of the current scheme price schemes, and also a new tier just completely. So, Nick, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Yeah, so basically this news kind of broke like last night. Like we're pretty hot on this story, and as a lot of other people are discussing also. So basically on Microsoft's website, I'll be pulling some information from here directly, because they do have like an article that they've been updating throughout the last like 24 hours with new information. And basically, it's an article, I guess you would say. It says Game Pass updates announced July 2024. So the main things to go over, one, as you mentioned, the price. There's going to be a price change going forward.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you mentioned is that there's going to be a new tier called Game Pass Standard.
Yep.
Yeah. Basically, beforehand, you had Game Pass
Core.
This is going to get so confusing. You have Game Pass Core,
which is essentially the old Xbox Live. Like, that was like a substitute for Xbox Live, which they got rid of.
It had the multiplayer,
online access.
Online access. Yeah. And it had like a small collection of games from Game Pass, but you didn't get the whole library. It was like a rotating list of, I think, like 15 games or something like that.
Yeah.
Yep. You had Game Pass Ultimate. Well, actually, okay, so you had Game Pass for console, and you had Game Pass for PC.
Yep. Which,
so those are two separate SKUs.
self-titled. I mean, it doesn't really, you don't need to explain it too much. But yeah, and then there's Game Pass Ultimate, which is...
And then Game Pass Ultimate, which is everything.
Yeah.
You have your online access, you have all your Game Pass on whatever platform you're going on.
Yeah.
All that stuff. So, Game Pass Standard... here, let me just find this real quick so I don't misquote this, because again, this is going to get
I mean, that's the thing. This is it's so weird that it has to be broken down like this, and we're going to talk about it in a second, but I think this is so stupid. But go ahead.
So here, there's a section on here that says changes to Xbox Game Pass for console. Starting on July 10th, 2024, Xbox Game Pass for console will not be available for new members. If you are currently subscribed to Xbox Game Pass for console and have automatic payment renewal enabled, you will be able to continue to enjoy your membership. Look for a message in your Xbox inbox with more information. If at any time you turn off your automatic payment renewal and your membership lapses, you will no longer have access to Game Pass for console and will need to join one of the other plans we offer for Game Pass. You
either ride that wave as long as you can, or you're out.
Yeah. Xbox Game Pass for console codes will continue to be redeemable until further notice. as of September 18th, 2024, the maximum extension limit of Game Pass for console will be 13 months. This will not impact any time you currently have stacked on your account that exceeds 13 months, and will only impact your future ability to stack more than 13 months after September 18th, 2024.
Damn.
So basically, Game Pass for console is going away after a certain point. If you're still enrolled in that tier and you have your automatic payments on, you can still have that. But that tier for now is going to be going away.
Yep.
Xbox Game Pass Standard. We created Game Pass to offer players more choice in how they discover and play games. That includes offering different prices and plans so players can find what works best for them. A new Game Pass option, Xbox Game Pass Standard, will become available for $14.99 USD, pricing varies by market, in the coming months. And then down here in the FAQ, it has, what is Xbox Game Pass Standard? Xbox Game Pass Standard gives you hundreds of high-quality games to play on your console. It also features all of the benefits of Xbox Game Pass Core, such as online console multiplayer and select member deals and discounts, including up to 50% off on select games. So basically, it's kind of like a consolidation. They're getting rid of the console tier specifically with the standard tier, and basically they're adding the multiplayer online access to this standard tier, as far as I can follow.
Yes. Yeah. And there's the price hikes that have chances are you've probably seen them like on clickbait titles and headlines for articles. But yeah, Game Pass in general, the price hikes. So Game Pass Core for 12 months was regularly $60, so the price of a game, and is now going to be $75, so the price of a new game. Then Game Pass Ultimate, which was regularly $17 a month, will now be up to $20 a month. On top of that, we have the non-day one games, Nick. And I think this is probably the biggest thing going into this. So, or actually, other than the fact that, the price hikes, obviously, but non-day one. So let's talk about that. Explain this to me.
So yeah,
I mean, explain this to the people because I already know.
Basically, with the standard tier, as far as from what we can see, the standard tier, so the new, I guess, like baseline tier, will not include day one games. The day one games will be exclusive to Game Pass Ultimate, it seems. So let me just see if they have that here, because let's see. Game Pass different from Core. So the players included with Game Pass Standard, Game Pass Library, yep. Yeah. Some games. Okay, here we go. Will all console games added to the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate library also be available with Xbox Game Pass Standard? Some games available with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate on day one will not be immediately available with Xbox Game Pass Standard and may be added to the library at a future date. This could be up to 12 months or more and will vary by title. So,
Retro says, I can't find the tweet anymore, but it said it's because there aren't enough PC subscribers, which makes sense after hearing what Nick read. Sure. I mean, I think, wait, Nick, aren't you one of the few Xbox or PC subscribers?
I was after they went on their firing spree a couple months back.
Oh,
I did end up canceling my subscription, so
yeah,
I am no longer a paying member.
Okay, so
here,
here's the thing, right? It sucks because like I really do like Xbox, but I think since we started this podcast, it's like they took a Tommy gun to their foot every other week. I mean,
they've been giving us podcasters a lot of fuel.
They've been giving us the titles. I mean, Nick and I were like, what do we talk about? Hope Xbox fucking shits the bed again. It's ridiculous. And look, obviously, like we've said this before, we don't like talking about drama or like negative shit just to talk about negative shit. But this is like kind of crazy that I mean, look, I think this kind of makes sense as Chad is saying too. But essentially, I think that for the last 4 years, right? 2020 is when the next gen consoles came out. For the last 4 years, the day one with Game Pass, play day one with Game Pass is like the mantra, the catchphrase, the slogan that they've been really hammering home. They so proudly say it at the end of every trailer, like play day one with Game Pass.
It's about as synonymous as the world premiere.
Yes,
thing.
absolutely.
You get your world premiere at the start and play it day one Game Pass at the end.
But now you have to have an asterisk with that slogan, and that's what sucks. And obviously, Go ahead.
What are they even gonna do? Fast forward to next year's
play day one with Game Pass Ultimate, maybe. I mean, you have to change it.
That's what I'm guessing.
Change it to some a longer version of that. But I just okay. If I'm being reasonable and rational, I think this comes from Black Ops 6. I think that this is
it's 100%.
The Call of Duty game coming to Game Pass is the thing that they're like, okay, we have to make our money from this game because these games cost like $100 million to make. So I can get it. I mean, I can rationalize like why they would get to that conclusion, right? But I also think when I'm looking at the scope of Xbox right now, with the fact that they just let go of so many teams that three studios that they just closed in 2 months ago, coming off of that. And everyone being like, "Oh fuck!" I mean, Xbox is just what are they doing over here? And it's like they gave their fans, and I'm not really in one boat or another. I'm not in the console war thing. I'm saying fans as in like people who own the console who are like, "Oh, I'm gonna watch the Xbox show so that I know what games are coming to the console I own." I'm talking about those fans. For those fans who maybe like had a little bit of a breath catch at in May about all the studios closing, they gave them this brief moment of reprieve by knocking it out of the fucking park with that Xbox Game Showcase in June. Best show of the year, totally like wall to wall. I thought they did fantastic, and then they do this shit. And you're like, okay, were they waiting? Were they just like, okay, at what point can we do something that pisses people off or just like is anti-consumer? and how long do you think they can wait after announcing this before going back to saying we're here for the players, we're here for the gamers,
right?
Like, you know what I mean? Obviously, Phil Spencer's got to take a week or two off of that slogan, but.
Do you think that there was a meeting back when they were, about to announce the layoffs, and they were just like, do we just pack in the Game Pass price hike too, or do we wait after? Like, do we want all the bad news now, or do we want to sprinkle this out throughout the year?
Yeah, I really want to know. I mean, obviously, everyone has like the roadmaps of games coming out. I want to know the roadmap for Xbox's shit news that comes out. Okay, in February we'll have surprise games closing, and then in July and September we'll have Game Pass. Fucking price hikes and tier closing and new tier that adds. At the very least, right? I think there should be a definitive idea of when a game will come to Game Pass standard. I don't know. Like, I think in what you read,
that time frame is weird.
Yeah, because I think in what you read, if I remember, he said this anywhere from 6 months to 12 months, like a year, pretty much.
12 months or more.
12
on a game-to-game basis.
See, even the fact that they put more, I'm guessing that they're like Black Ops 6 is probably one of those mores. Anything that Bethesda makes, any first-party Bethesda game, like Elder Scrolls 6, you bet your ass it's going to be more. I think I'm trying to think of how you would manage this to make this digestible, right? Like, how do you make this a pill that people can swallow? I would say make it as definitive. Hey, the prices are going up, but at the very least, if you can't get the big subscription, the big boy subscription, the other subscription gets it after 6 months, guaranteed. After 6 months, you can get it. And I think at the very least, what that would do is give you essentially a time frame, right? You have Play 1 with Game Pass, and then as a player, as a subscriber to Game Pass standard, that 6 months after that, day one, you can get it too. That works so much better than sometimes 6 months, year, maybe longer, 2 years. Who knows? Like,
it'll be 2028 when Black Ops 6 is on standard.
Where does that line go? I mean, it's just the messaging is so shit with this whole thing, and it's not even like the price hikes also suck, but like it's not even. I mean, at this point, I'm gonna be honest. I forget what the PlayStation Plus thing is, but I think the PlayStation Plus Extra is a better value than or as good of a value now as.
I actually have them pulled up.
Oh shit, perfect. Because I am actually a PlayStation Extra subscriber. And
so Essential is $9.99 monthly, $24.99 quarterly, or $79.99 yearly. Extra is $14.99 monthly, $39.99 quarterly, or $134.99 yearly. And Premium is $17.99 monthly, $50 regular quarterly, and $160 yearly.
So Premium is now less than a Game Pass Ultimate.
Yeah.
And that's the highest tier of PlayStation Extra. For those of you who don't know, or PlayStation Plus, if you don't know how the breakdown is, Essential is the equivalent to Core, Game Pass Core. So it gives you like like the monthly game, 2-3 games monthly, and access to online. Extra adds a whole catalog of games that's like essentially like Game Pass, where you can browse games that they have. They kind of shuffle a few titles in and out every month, and then the what was it called?
Premium.
Premium is like the big daddy of it, because it has not just those games catalog, but it has like classic games. You can play PSP games on there. I think you can play PS3 games on there. So yeah, I mean, again, I've so vehemently said that Game Pass is the best deal in video games for so long, and I just don't know if it's something I'd recommend to people now. And at the very least, I think that if anything, I think this fucks themselves over, because I think the situation right now with Xbox, I think you are the perfect case in point for this, Nick. So, someone who's speaking, voting with their wallet type of thing. That they did some stupid shit back in May, and so you unsubscribe from Game Pass as a way to say, hey, that sucked. And I think a lot of people are on that boat as well, myself included. But then on top of that, you have this price increase. My God, the AC finally calmed down. Oh my God, it's hot. It's going to get hotter, and I somehow feel more reprieve. But so I lost my fucking train of thought. The AC threw me off. Okay, so a lot of people are unsubscribing.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you have now this price increase, which, if anything, I think will either make more people unsubscribe, which I know it will, because I've told people who have Game Pass, hey, did you hear about this price hike? And they're like, no, but I'm canceling my shit now. So I know that's happening. But if anything, I think this will essentially make people only buy Game Pass the month that whatever that game they want to play comes out. They'll pay $20 for the when, I don't know what game. I'm going to say Black Ops 6, but Black Ops 6 might not be the best title for this example. But or Perfect Dark, for example. When Perfect Dark comes out, or Gears of War E-Day, people will be like, all right, I paid $20, and I get to play the game campaign. I run through it, and then I'm done. That's the worst possible model that Xbox could encourage, because that's essentially saying, hey, instead of paying $70 for this game, pay $20 for a month, play the shit out of it, and then you're done. Adam Butt says you can convert Core to Ultimate for $1, the best deal in gaming. Is that true? I didn't know that. Sure, that if that is true, if that is still a because I know they sometimes do those promos and then they cancel them out. So if that is true, that would be awesome. But
yeah, the real question would be for how long?
Exactly.
Because even if they say, "Oh yeah, that's here to stay," it's like, well, the entire messaging for this entire year for this company has been, we say one thing and then we're gonna do something else.
Well,
so
exactly, and I mean, I know that they also they're clever over there. So they'll. I remember when Starfield was coming out, they got rid of the $1 tier entirely. Like the $1, because essentially there's like an intro thing to Game Pass where it's like you pay $1 and you get a month of Game Pass, I think. So like when big games come out, they always get rid of those so that people can't just literally do what I just described. But that's essentially what they're encouraging people to buy a month subscription, play the shit out of this game, and then get rid of it because they haven't consistently been putting. Oh shit! Let me ignore limit. I don't know what. Oh my god! Hello, my entire screen just went dark. Hold on. Let me get. Let's see here.
I still hear you, so
yeah, no, that's good. That part's good at least. Let's see here. Ignore. Okay, you're back. Everyone, say something, Nick.
Yo.
All right, perfect.
I'm talking.
Everything's good. All right, so
system reboot.
Yo, Adam Butt, get your fucking ass out of here, bro. Get your if you can't have a rational conversation about video games, then go do whatever the fuck you want. I don't know. I feel like, people come in here like, oh, man, you're fucking hating on Xbox? Dude, go listen to any other podcast episode we did where we're like, oh, the Xbox fucking killed this shit. 10 minutes ago I said that Xbox killed the Xbox Game Showcase. So if you can't comprehend someone having rational conversation about things and having two divided opinions about something, this is not the fucking place for you, buddy. Anyway, I'll fucking digress. So, getting back into it. What, were you saying something, Nick, before my computer just completely blacked out?
Nah, it was just like mainly talking about like, the price changes, like, going off of what you were talking about too. Just like the idea that like if you want people to, recurringly pay, like if we are saying, that, Call of Duty Activision is kind of the driving factor behind some of these decisions.
Yeah.
It's like incentivizing the, play it for a month kind of,
mentality.
Players like to come in here. Like that's not how you do that. The standard version at that point, then I'm just kind of confused at why that exists, because if the reason to get the recurring payments is on the yearly version of Ultimate or whatever, like if you want the people that want to pay the cheaper price to get in on standard, well then they're not getting those day one games and they're not going to be the recurring payments. So it's just like maybe it is just like a consolidation thing where it's like, okay, we don't want core console, PC, Ultimate, all this other stuff. We just want standard core.
I think the best
Ultimate
version of this monetization scheme is actually, I think they did it with Starfield, and I say that because I actually bought into it. So for Starfield, obviously Nick had hyped this shit up. I mean, obviously. I was also into Starfield. It's a Bethesda game, but Nick was super into it, and so we kept talking about it, and I still have a Game Pass subscription that came with it was like built, with like, it's one of those deals where it's like you buy your brand new Xbox Series X from Xbox, and they give you like 2 years of Game Pass with it or whatever. So I still have Game Pass, but when Starfield was coming out, Starfield comes out on day one with Game Pass. But if you wanted to play early, like Nick did, Nick bought the how much was it? like the collector's edition? Like
it was like 200, I think, maybe more. I forget exactly how much it was, but yes, the collector's edition.
So if you bought that, you get to play it early. For me, as a Game Pass subscriber, they offered a $35 special edition, essentially that upgrades you with Game Pass to be able to play it early. That was, I think, like the best kind of monetization scheme that they could have done with Game Pass for future titles as well. Not even just regular, like everyday kind of releases. I know in the next like
Mhm.
2 weeks or 3 weeks, there's like 5 new games coming out to Game Pass. I think Flintlock is one of them, and Age of Mythology, I think. A few of the stuff that we saw back in Xbox Game Showcase. But
Mhm.
I mean, it makes no sense to do this shit after what just happened in May. Just convert your core to Ultimate. I mean, okay, you do that, dude. You fucking do that. Guy's tripping over his words. You fucking haven't listened to an episode before. I do it every episode, dude. That's just how I talk. Try to dunk on me, dude. Fuck. What? I can't fucking talk regularly. But no, I think. I mean, does this change your perspective about Game Pass, Nick, in general? I mean, obviously, it's already in May. You've felt that way, but
Right. I think in general, if we're gonna answer this question, that's like our title. Like, is it still the best deal in gaming? I think it is if you are a certain type of player, and that
Sure.
is, somebody like you or me that will go out of our way to play indies, will go out of our way to play a big variety of different types of games.
yeah,
I still think even after the increased price point of like, $20 per month, 75 a year, I still do think for the amount of games that are on Game Pass that you do get your money's worth and then some with the amount of stuff. Even if going forward with standard, if you're not there
sure.
for the day one stuff, like I still think you will be getting some value out of that. For the people that are looking at Game Pass as a way to play Xbox games specifically day one,
Right.
I think this just gets a little bit more muddy. Like I think, yeah, it's still probably worth it on like a dollar standpoint. Again, if you're like us who like we're going to be playing multiple of these games.
Right.
Like it's like, will I re-sub for Indiana Jones or, Gears E Day? Yeah, probably. I will do that. But like if I'm a new customer coming at it and it's like I just want to play Call of Duty, it's like how long are you going to play Call of Duty then? Like are you a person that's going to play Call of Duty until the next one comes out?
Right.
Then I don't know if it's necessarily worth that because you're paying like, $20 a month over a year's worth of time for one game, right? So I think it depends on the type of player you are, whether or not this is still the best deal. I think it's still a great deal, certainly.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that I 100% agree. I think that all on top of that, if you're buying, I mean, I think the Xbox Series S is pretty much like bundled with the Game Pass. I think it just makes sense that those two things to go together. I just realized that, I mean, I have an Xbox Series X that came with Game Pass. I wonder if there probably should be a bundle that has the Series S with a Game Pass too. I feel like that would be that would have 2 years Game Pass with the Series S. That'd be a good deal. But I think there was a point in 2022, 2021 where you saw PlayStation running ahead with the sales, so much so that they couldn't keep up with stock and stuff. And Xbox was selling, but as we know now, the PS5 was just clearly ahead of the curve in terms of sales. I think the sales report for last quarter just came out, and would you believe the PS5 is once again in the lead? Obviously, Switch is a second as it's kind of slows down for the Switch Pro or whatever's coming next year. But it always felt like Xbox was this underdog, which is a crazy thought because there are $1 billion, like billions of dollars. Like Microsoft is the richest of the three, I think. Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. But it felt like they were the underdog. Like you were like, oh, I'm rooting for them. I really believed. I think with the fact that they were putting out, obviously Game Pass, but also, which we also now know that Game Pass initially for the first year, right, was like essentially working on a loss. Like they were not making profit in those first few years for Game Pass. So,
which I mean, to be fair, that's how most of the console manufacturers work. I mean, I think Nintendo is the only outlier in that, but usually whenever you're launching something new like that, you're at a loss for a while.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if I remember, I think the when the Xbox One and PS4 were announced, they cut the price of the PS4 last minute and sold it at a kind of a less than ideal rate, so that and their goal was that they could undercut Xbox and sell so many units that it would offset the per price unit or something like that. I'm not going to get into technicals there. And I think that actually worked, because I think the PS4 is like top 5 best-selling consoles of all time at this point.
Right.
But with the fact that they had Game Pass, the backwards compatibility is a huge thing as well. The fact that they were allowing people to have, backward, like just, on Game Pass, you could boot up a game or even just put in a disc for a 360 game you had and play it. Stuff like that, which PlayStation is so clearly against doing, apparently. It felt like they were the people to vote for and or root for. And the way you rooted for them was with Game Pass. And I think with everything that happened in the last few months with Xbox, as awesome as their lineup is going forward, you can't help but be like, okay, what's the next? Where's the next pie they're going to step on? What's the next goof that's going to happen that's going to muddle this experience, because they really just can't seem to get a
Whoops,
break.
guys, we sold Halo to Sony.
Dude,
yeah.
So let's see. Who knows? Halo on PlayStation. It could happen.
I will say also, in regards to the perspective shift, we brought up PlayStation Plus earlier.
Yeah.
And I think that, a month ago, if you would have said, which is, the more enticing thing, Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, I would go like Game Pass easy. Yes. PlayStation Plus, I don't think is like, it's pretty overpriced, even for, the things that you get. Like, it's still like the free games you get with
the core, or the
is,
essential, is definitely overpriced. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, a month ago, I would have said that. Today, it's still, like I said, it's still a good deal.
But they've
I
even
think
the playing
those
ground,
are
playing
still,
field.
they're a bit closer now as far as coming to a decision on that.
Which is funny, because usually evening the playing field means the competition has to do something good, not you do something bad to even
get it closer.
Yeah. Halo on PlayStation would burn the internet. Yeah, 100%. I don't know if that would happen. I think I would actually. Nick, what would you think would come to PlayStation earlier, Halo or Gears?
So I've seen some, rumors, in the rumor mill. Again, we don't usually talk about them.
Yeah, sure.
But there are rumors about some sort of a Halo remake or something that is in talks of potentially launching on PlayStation.
Sure.
If that's true, I do think Halo would come first, especially if Xbox is going to have like a, pull the plug moment where it's like, okay, literally anything we have is going to be on PlayStation at some point.
I do think if
you lead the charge with
out,
Halo.
Yeah. If either of those make the jump, I think it would be like no holds barred. I mean, if that's on the table, then I think it opens the door for anything to go through. No, I also agree. I think Halo, not regarding the rumor, I didn't necessarily know that, but I do think Halo makes more sense than Gears, because I think Gears hasn't. I'm not saying Infinite is bad. I just do. I think we can all agree Infinite had a bit of a rough launch, and so I think that kind of. And also, I haven't even played the story. I haven't played a Halo story, so just going off of the general zeitgeist about Halo Infinite, I do think it was a bit of a stumble in some regards. I also heard that, I think you've said yourself that they've kind of fine-tuned the game and, revitalized it. But, I think that would be the franchise that would... I think right now, Halo has a slightly under... is slightly under the Gears because of how big Gears is, and I think the hype around E-Day has been huge. So, yeah, Halo.
I think Gears has been more consistently good rather than Halo, which has had a shaky footing in the past couple games.
They tested the waters with the pirate game, and the results came out great. So, not too war-fetched at this point. So, I actually think I saw earlier today that Sea of Thieves is still in the top 5 on PlayStation 5. So... yeah, good shit. I mean, granted, it's far-fetched. Okay. I was like, war-fetched? That must be something I don't know. It must be a saying I didn't understand. Far-fetched at this point. Yeah, I will say there's some joke there about like Xbox encouraging piracy on PlayStation 5, but I'm not gonna make that because Adam Butt might get butt hurt. But dude, you can't come into our chat and do bullshit because I will call you out. There's nothing stopping me. Nick at least has some decency. I don't. Okay, I think Nick, anything else about Game Pass before we wrap it up? I'm gonna look at the inbox real fast just to see if there's anything catches my eye.
Yeah, I mean, boy, stepping on rakes left and right.
Yeah,
that Xbox over there.
What do you? All right, Nick, place a bet. No money, but place a bet. The end of the year, there's going to be. Do you think at the end of the year, do you think Xbox will have another shit show in the next 6 months?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow, with confidence.
They said that their layoffs aren't done, or at least behind closed doors. That's the sentiment. There's absolutely a runway for that to still happen.
Yeah.
I think putting, a stake in it for me personally, does the news over the last 24 hours change my personal thoughts, kind of like how you were just asking? Like, I don't think the needle for me has not moved drastically.
Is that because the needle was so low?
It's because it was like in the middle, right? Like I was hot on Game Pass, and then, like you said, I was rubbed the wrong way with them callously closing a bunch of studios. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, not give you passive income anymore.
You see, Nick, they wanted to encourage talent that was making good games. So
right,
yeah.
So it's just like, I'm gonna stop giving passive income, and this obviously doesn't, want me to come back necessarily, but at the same time, again, if there's a game that I want to play, like sure, I'll hop in the playground and play.
Sure. But makes sense. All right. Well, I think we're about to be the record for one of the fastest episodes we've had in a long time.
It's because we don't like talking about these bad stories.
No, yeah.
When we get stuff that we're having fun, we can go off. But when it's, we're just going to raise the prices and make this worse for you, it's just like, okay, well.
Yeah. So I think to end this a little bit of a dour episode, we still had fun, there was some. We still had some laughs, but to end it on a good note, I wanted to talk about. We're going to end it on try this, try that. Our favorite segment. Now, Nick, I need your help here. Name a third person, like platformer or like open world shooter. Like it's like third person. How do I say this? Maybe like Ratchet and Clank. I'll say Ratchet and Clank, but give me a game like Ratchet and Clank if you got one. If you don't, I'll just say Ratchet and Clank.
So I guess if we're going with Ratchet and Clank as a base, I would say third-person platformer. How about Blinks? I don't know if this is going to be the kind of thing you want, but let's go with Blinks. We'll tie it into Xbox too.
Wow. Okay. Give me that spelling. Blink. Is it literally Blinks?
BLINX, I think.
Oh, BLINX.
Blinks the Time Sweeper.
The Time Sweeper. Holy shit. I as soon as I saw the cover, I remembered it. Oh man, that's crazy. So, okay, Nick's thing is if you like Ratchet and Clank, try Blinks the Time Sweeper. Wow, what a cut. Mine is a game I recently played, a remake that completely took me by surprise. So if you like Ratchet and Clank, then try Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed. Now, I haven't played the first Destroy All Humans. They were nice enough to send me a code for the first Destroy All Humans Reprobed, but on the Nintendo Switch. And I'll tell you what, don't play it on the Nintendo Switch. It looks bad. For a remaster or remake of a game, it was not the way you should play it. So I didn't really make it far in that game. But then they were sending me over a code for Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed on the PlayStation 5. And oh my God, I loved it. It is so much fun. It's so vibrant. It looks awesome. It has a really fun, a little bit edgy, maybe a little bit cringy based on like what your humor is, type of humor because of that the writing. But it's so much fun. The game doesn't take itself too seriously. There's a lot of jokes, and just the gameplay of essentially you're going around to these different, again, vibrant open world locations and just exploring them and essentially even traversing the world is almost like a puzzle because obviously you're an alien, so you can't just walk around. Do you get to destroy all humans? Retro. You're glad to know you do get to destroy all humans.
Yeah, I actually have the original game on Xbox, and it was developed by Pandemic Studios, which were the people behind the original Battlefront games, if you ever played those. So,
wow. Yeah, so
yeah, they've been on my list that I wanted to give those games a try.
Again, I haven't played Reprobed 1, and I do want to, because the second one just really... I mean... It's one of those games where, like, you played it and you're like, wow, this is really good. But then, like, the more it kind of sits with you and, like, you look, like, you know, if you think back on it, you're like, wow, this is good. I really like it. So that was a moment of inspiration for their Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed. Adam Butt says, aside from gaming, I do wish you both the best. Adam, I'm glad we could end off on a positive note, buddy. You have a good one. Thanks for coming and telling us I've been tripping over my words and that we're assuming. But you know what you know what happens when you assume. But with that said, Nick, I think we end this episode 5 minutes shorter than... Hold, you know what, Nick? You're actually...
Episode, was that it?
No. Our speedrunning episode is not the shortest. So the shortest episode before this was in May. And Nick, you are correct, because it is also when we're talking about things that isn't hot. That episode was about if Ubisoft should retire the Assassin's Creed series of the franchise. So
gotcha, yeah.
yeah. You know, we like good vibes over here. That's what I can confirm. So
good vibes. We can talk for 5 hours. Yeah,
and we've talked for a long time before. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed another episode of the Respawn Station podcast, the best of Summer Game Fest. That was almost 3 hours. So if you want some good vibes, go check that out. We can only move forward. Absolutely. So with that said, people, as always, thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. You guys know what to do by now, so I won't go through all that rigmarole. But of course, check out RespawnStation.com if you want to support what we do here, because you know we're trying to be independent games media, and it is a pain in the ass to do that in 2024. I'll tell you what. I'll say this: some cool interviews coming. I teased it before. But some things fall through, so now I can say it again. We got some cool interviews coming, so stay tuned. And until next time, people, as always, have a good night, a good morning, and a damn good time.